Following up part 2 of that neck mobility talk, DJ and I did sitting down, going over the importance of neck mobility. Going to give you guys some of the things that we do to not only restore range of motion, check on things as DJ mentioned, and then a couple tips for strengthening it. Those neck rotations, I know those are a key thing for you.
I do them daily, man.
Yeah, let's jump in right into that.
Yeah, dude. I do them. For me, I try to get my chin as close as I can to my actual chest, and then I keep that pressure all the way on, and I make it as wide as I can. So right now, I'm at full tilt as far as I can over. I keep my chin kind of driving, and then I try to make this arc as big as I possibly can.
Big thing here that I'm looking for with DJ is thinking about not compromising what's going on with his torso. So even though he's going through these full circular rotations of what's going on with his neck, he's not biasing and donating range of motion as he gets back to this high point by lifting his ribs. We still want to have all those contact points of cueing the torso, cueing the glutes, as DJ has said in the past, but just trying to really isolate that rotation that's occurring with the neck. I love what DJ said about tracing that big circle and then dragging his neck along. We definitely want to make sure we're also going in reverse pattern. So give us a couple in reverse pattern, DJ, but make sure we're turning off to the side and going all around that big circular pattern, just tracing that chin in a big circular motion. A lot of people have asked, like, when do you incorporate movements like this? This is something low level hanging. This is something you can introduce during your rest periods of your bench press, of your incline pressing, your pulling, whatever the thing is, any sort of time that you can introduce 5 to 8 reps of this. It's not going to interfere with your normal stuff. You're already resting for 30 seconds to a minute and a half anyway. Why not take advantage of that?
It might feel like any clicky spot. I'll get one spot where it's kind of just jammed up. I'll get right to that point, and if I have to, instead of making a full rotation, I'll just go back and forth and kind of really try to isolate that one spot.
So when you said in the past, you say in the past this is like a self-diagnosis so you'll kind of do this to kind of check where you're feeling, how you slept the previous night. If you do find that not like you said, will you just trace back and forth over it?
Yeah.
Is there
It's
anything
like
else?
Well, just back and forth, but then really, now it's my self-check-in. Now I know I have something there, so if we have incline press, we're picking up something heavy. Is this thing restricting me? Am I starting to guard it on one side? Like we start doing farmer's carries, and now my neck's jammed up. I'll see my whole body will start to shift it off, and it really throws it down. So sometimes I'll just switch it. I'm like, I need to work on my neck the next 10 minutes and try to loosen this thing up before I compromise something else just because of the lack of range of motion.
Yeah.
So if I have that, I mean, I'll just sit there and grind, and I'll grab a tennis ball. I'll do whatever I can. I'm like, okay, there it is. And sometimes, like you said, sometimes it's the scaling. I feel it back here, but maybe there's something on the front side that's causing on the back.
So speaking on what the scalenes just said with DJ, so he's working those big circular patterns. So sometimes as well, if I'm feeling that tightness on the front side of my neck, I'll try to lengthen that tissue. As we're walking around, as DJ mentioned in that first video we recorded, it's just normal to look down at the ground. We just become here. We're very rarely in this tall, nice posture, nice extended neck position. So we get used to that forward head posture, forward head dipping. So I'll even cue sometimes personally with myself is all, like DJ said, I'll like try to diagonally lengthen. So if I'm trying to keep everything square still, and I'm thinking about taking, like DJ said, those scalenes and everything, and I'm trying to lengthen, and I'm going to take my chin, and I'm just going to almost like pull it up, like some sort of Popeye shit or something. I don't know. But just try to pull my chin up to get that length there, and just reach. So I'm reaching up, and then I'll kind of go back down as a diagonal pattern, like back down, go back down into that diagonal pinch, and then reach back up, pulling my chin up, reaching that tissue. It might feel pretty weird because you've never lengthened that tissue before or put that tissue in that space. And then I'll go back and I'll hit the other side just for like 2 reps, DJ. Just big reach, and once again, you're just playing with tissue as DJ mentioned. So maybe he's lifting up this side, and then maybe he goes back down into that angle, and this time he kind of turns his chin a little bit more and cockeyes up and just reaches up there, just changing that pitch, that English that we're trying to put on that tissue each time. And then as DJ's doing here, cross-frictional rubs. I love that for any tissue when it's coming to addressing tension or dealing with stress or any sort of feeling like it's tight. But like DJ did, putting that tissue in that lengthened position and then a cross-frictional rub. So you can do that with your own hand, kind of pushing in. If you've ever had a massage therapist dig in on there, that's a pretty painful spot. But you can provide some sort of self-therapy to that you have autonomy with. But I'll have DJ, I like to use the back of the hand, so we'll take the back of the hand, we'll put it right on the side of the Adam's apple. So hand right there, put the knuckles of your hand right on the side of your Adam's apple. The meat knuckle, like the first one, yeah, there you go, Turn your head straight. And then I'm gonna push in and just kind of turn. So you're just giving that cross-frictional rub, and then let that tension go up to the top of your hand. So as you're pushing across, let it kind of guide up your hand up to your wrist. And you're just pushing across, feeling that tension pushing in. And then once I get to the end, I'll kind of like go back and forth, and I'll be like, it always feels like I have a greater range of motion. It's almost that cross-frictional rub was just enough to kind of polish that tissue, get the other side.
You can really feel that. It'll feel like guitar strings. You can extend your neck,
Yeah.
you can really feel it. After 2 or 3 sessions of that cross-frictional rub, you can really feel it start to break apart, and then everything starts to
For the front,
really loosen
for the
up.
front side of the neck, I feel like that's the best. Now, we'll also do like put a barbell on and sit it on your trap and kind of put in and kind of move your neck. Let's do that, actually.
Yeah, man, the neck stuff cannot be ignored. It limits so much of your everyday life, from driving the car, being a first responder, an athlete, whatever it needs to be. But I feel like it's pretty overlooked because not a lot of people, you don't have a chiropractic background, you don't have a doctor you can call on hand, so a lot of dudes, they just avoid, you just walk around with this Batman neck all day long.
Yeah.
It's like, we got over that shit real quick. Like, if it's gonna limit everything else I do throughout the entire day, it's gonna ruin my morning routine, let's take 5 minutes and just isolate the neck and let's really hammer down on this thing. For me, it makes me really aware of just my vessel and everything I got going on. Like, my neck's really limiting throughout my entire day. Instead of just grinding through it, now I'm in this compromised position. Let me take 10 minutes, I'm just gonna isolate my neck, and then I'll get back to work. For me, it's been a game changer.
Yeah. So that first one was using your hand to kind of apply that pressure. This is something we've also used in the past, involving the traps a little bit more, is we'll just use a loaded barbell, and he'll just kind of dig up into his traps, right up into that spot, right below the neck, and from here, use that same position of his neck, exploring that tension, going in like a diagonal pattern, keeping our body nice and still, reaching, and then reaching up and away, just kind of restricting motion and then moving around it. Going in a circular pattern, diagonal, whatever feels comfortable, but you're just trying to feel through those nooks and crannies, as DJ mentioned. If you noticed one when you were doing those circle rotations, those two things of providing the self implement or using a barbell are two things that you can use to explore that tension a little bit more.
Every time I do this, I'll find one knot on the side of my trap, and something I try to keep myself aware from not doing is compromising my position. Sometimes I'll hit one of these things, the next thing I know, I'll go hippie chesty, and now it's not neck isolated at all. Now my whole torso is getting compromised here. So I try to be pretty semi-rigid, but aware. I keep my core, 30% engaged, and then I'll feel it right there. And exactly like Vernon said, I'll try to draw a line down at a 45 degree, and it's almost like I'm pulling it. Lean my head in just a little bit more. I feel the pressure, and then I can just walk this bar out 1 or 2 inches and kind of just play with it. Same thing, I'll bring my head up, kind of reassess, maybe a little forward, maybe a little back, extend, and kind of that same cross-frictional rub. I'll just use the weight of the bar, and I'll just pull it away from my trap as I drop my neck. And dude, it does wonders, man. It's the same thing as one of the little sticks you use.
Yep.
Just like a stick, but now it's my own pressure. It's really hard for me to get in with the stick, but this thing it's really nice, dude.
Anytime we can have any sort of self-implement for someone, because obviously a massage therapist, something like that is very valuable, but what are the chances you have that when you need it in the moment? You definitely have to wait 2 weeks for a phone call. So having strategies like this that you can just jump to quickly, I think is a recipe for success when it comes to longevity and staying in the game, continuing training, even when you don't feel your best. Honestly, the days that you feel your best are going to be few and far between versus the days where you feel a little achy, you feel a little sore, you got a little issues going on. So it's just having autonomy with movements that we can incorporate when those situations do arise. This is something you can do for the traps. Traps are obviously involved with what's going on to the neck. A cue that I'll give DJ, especially when we are doing movements, to help prevent that front side of that neck get a little bit too aggressive is driving the tongue to the roof of the neck. Just getting away from that concept of biting down for rigidity so much, but driving the tongue to the roof of the mouth kind of helps with that tension on that front side of that neck I found when I'm cueing people, whether we're doing vertical pressing or horizontal pressing in our programs.
I know when you just heard that, you think it sounds like witchcraft and it shouldn't work. I said the exact same thing. Just try it, dude. Like, honestly, try it. Don't bite down. Relax your mouth and drive that tongue to the roof of your mouth. And I'm telling you, it's something weird, man, but it does work. I swear to God. Farmers carries, anything we do.
Yep.
Tongue to the roof of your mouth. Even shoulder presses.
Yep.
Like, I feel like I always brace myself with my neck. Like, I'm going to make my neck so rigid. And what I end up doing is just biting down, head in a forward posture position. I'm not really aware because I'm clamping everything down. Now when I relax it, now it's strictly just a shoulder press.
Yep.
I'm I'm not having to donate anything for my neck to try to
But
make myself stable.
I want to. Like when I'm pressing, I have the feeling of like gritting things down, biting down, pressing off, versus that's like the reverse. By driving my tongue up, it's like, oh yeah, head's back, nice tall posture, everything stays together. So those are things that we can address movement, we can address range of motion, we can hopefully restore range of motion, we can address tension and knots that we have dealt with, whether it's the bar or that self-massage, and here's a couple things we can do to strengthen that area. First one we can do is using an elevated surface here with a bench to kind of hold an isometric with that neck. So DJ is going to kind of set this up almost from a glute bridge setup.
Try to find a good spot for my neck to be even weight across my head. Squeeze my glutes.
And now we're just thinking about holding this isometric. He's kind of cueing his chin down still. We're not reaching. His ribs are down. He's staying tight. He's staying relaxed. He's driving his tongue to the roof of his mouth. And he's just holding this bridge, involving what's going on with that neck and that upper back area, involving that whole posterior chain with this setup. How's that feel?
Good. But you can tell you haven't done it in a while. As soon as you get done, you feel like not a head rush, but you can definitely feel a pump in the back of the neck.
Yeah.
It comes down to traps, but I mean, it feels good. It feels like that sudden blood flow increases range of motion because it feels better.
Do you feel like a rush afterwards on that backside of that neck? I wonder what it would have felt like before we did all that neck-related stuff, that movement stuff.
Probably terrible. Like, yeah, it's always something.
Yeah, do one more. I feel sometimes when we do a movement, the first rep always feels a little weird, especially if we haven't touched that pattern in a while.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see the second time you do it, how it feels.
Yeah, when you guys are getting into this, man, like you set a goal in your mind for 30 seconds. It's not a plank. It's significantly more difficult than you think it's going to be.
Yeah.
5 seconds, 8 seconds, 10 seconds. Like see where it really is. And if you have to compromise your position or it becomes such a strain that, you know, you can't lock in your core, it just becomes too much, stop and reset, dude. Like, we've done them in the past. You hang a band so it almost sets on your lower back just to take off a little bit of that weight. Don't jam yourself up here.
Absolutely.
Slow progression.
Biggest thing I'm thinking about though when I have DJ in this position is it's our posture. So no different than when we're standing upright looking for that good vertical posture. That same thing is existing here, and now we just have a horizontal posture holding this bridge. Think about this as I guess like a reverse plank, neck plank, whatever you want to call it, neck bridge.
Neck bridge.
Neck bridge.
Trying to get myself
Yeah.
flat as a board.
You're locked in. He's pretty square crossed. He's not reaching his neck. He's strengthening that backside and the front side, holding this 360 view of the neck with this posterior bridge, cueing in that whole posterior chain. You can see his toes are up off the ground, driving his heels into the ground, driving his hips, driving his glutes. His ribs are connected. Whole posterior chain's locked in. 3, 2, slowly down, slowly down. Big thing here DJ's doing, which I love, is he's safe out of this position. Last thing you want to do is you did all that work holding this isometric bridge, and then you just collapse, and now your neck, it just shoots up, it gets locked up or tight because you got loose on that last rep. Stay safe throughout the entire movement.
Yeah, man. Safety's paramount. You want to be able to do this 52 weeks out of the year, so don't jam yourself up because a compromised position because you couldn't safely get out of the exercise. One of the big cues he always sends, no matter what we're doing, if it's a squat, a shoulder press, incline press, safely out, safely out. Did all this work up until the last rep. Don't compromise it now in the last 4 seconds. So, yeah, just be aware.
Yeah, now let's transition to more of a lateral bend with that neck. So that first aspect was really loading that posterior chain of that neck, strengthening that, holding that isometric bridge. This is now looking at it from the frontal plane. Now we have the band around going sideways. DJ's just gonna take a slight step out and straighten everything up, and all we're just looking for is this straight plumb line from his head, the center of his line, all the way down his body, and he can kind of step back in, kind of take some stress off, but he's just holding this isometric, trying to stay as square as he can, challenging that. We definitely want to hit both sides, but just thinking about holding these isometrics. I really love isometrics for the neck. It's just a simple way to make sure that we're holding good form because we can stay there and it's not literally loading rotation too much. There is an exercise using an iron neck. I think that's pretty cool, adding some rotation, but I like it because the resistance is pretty continuous. It's not something that's bouncing around or changing too much. How's this one feel?
Good. Really good. I mean, you can feel everything locked in. If I feel a little bit of them getting off center, just apply it down. For me, I'm really trying to gauge it in between my ears, pretend like everything's flat and level.
Nice.
Because sometimes my eyes will trick me. I just try to make sure that this earlobe doesn't drop between this one. If I do, I just try to counterbalance it.
Yep.
And then a little pressure.
While DJ's doing that, not only is he holding that vertical plumb line that we're looking at, trying to keep him as symmetrical as possible. Obviously, things will dip a little bit, but same thing like DJ said, keeping him on plane this way as well. Not letting that head go too far forward into that forward head posture, keeping him back, tongue to the roof of the mouth, chin's back, ribs down, abs tight, good posture.
I'm feeling my oblique really locked in right now.
Almost like because you're trying to find stability because your neck's being pulled, right?
Exactly.
Nice.
What's up, guys? DJ Shipley, retired Navy SEAL.
Vernon Griffith, 2024 Tactical Strength and Conditioning Coach of the Year.
I've dealt with more injuries and physical limitations than you can possibly imagine.
Our 5-day program will get you out of pain, improve your mobility, strength, and power.
This program's not just for operators, but don't take our word for it.
The GBRS program has been life-changing. It's helped me be consistent, and it's been an asset to my weight loss. I've never been in better shape in my life.
We have thousands of success stories. There's no reason you can't be the next.
Start today with a free 7-day trial.
So that first one, holding that posterior bridge, if that's too much, this is something we can come back to, and you can manually resist this, or you can provide a banded resistance. But DJ's just gonna do a body weight first to start. He's just gonna lay prone here on this bench, give him some base of support here, and he's just looking through a big range of motion, no different than when we did with that first movement, just kind of exploring rotation. Don't wanna get too much from the back, just kind of really isolate what's going on with that neck. There you go, dive in our chin and up. And this is just him body weight, but we can obviously add resistance. If you had a partner, you can kind of give some pass or some manual resistance here, kind of loading him through that range of motion, strengthening that backside. If it's just you by yourself, you can grab a towel with both hands and kind of hold it on the back of your neck and kind of manually provide that resistance as you go through this range of motion. But just something you can add in during a rest period, during a warm-up, at the end of a session. If you have a low-intensity day, you're just looking to kind of fill the cracks on some mobility needs. If you notice that you're having some issues with like a forward head posture, really getting some tension on the front side of that neck, just some ways that we can kind of explore that and just kind of deload our body. Think about how we stand. It's always upright. Our head's kind of drifting forward a little bit more. Just putting ourselves in these positions where we're having to strengthen that area to hold this position, hold this bowling ball, this 8-pound weight for the most part, what most adults have, just is leaning on the front side of our body and just training those small tissues to kind of pull us back to that plumb line. How's that feel?
Good. Not a big strain, but one of the big things I do is I'm always searching for more range of motion, and I'll end up donating it from somewhere. So if I'm not hyper aware of keeping my hip flexors on the actual bench, keep my sternum on the bench, I'll naturally start to do this because I want to be able to see where I'm going.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting anything except now I'm compromising my lower back.
Yep.
So I'm trying to keep everything down. I mean, if I was king for a day, I'd belt my shit in here so I couldn't move at all.
Yeah, yeah.
And really just trying to get up to where I feel the tension, slow, kind of let it stretch out a little bit. I'm not trying to do it super fast.
Yeah, that's the good point there. DJ's being very detailed with it. It's almost like he's walking down and he's walking up. He's not just plummeting his chin and throwing his head back. He's getting that full reach, full reach, full reach. And then from there, starting from this full reach, nice and slow all the way up. And like he said, trying not to donate it by lifting to get more. Really try to keep it just from what's occurring. Get that long length in the lat, in the traps. And then up into the neck, big reach. Starting.
When Vernon's cueing big reach, when I get up to this point, I'm trying to imagine my chin out an extra 8 inches. I'm trying to elongate my neck as far as possible. And then I'm trying to extend, almost like how we do a lat sweep. When we extend, I'm trying to reach out as far as I can. It's the exact same thing. I start from here, and I'm trying to bring my chin on this line without donating anything from my upper body. I get up to where it's nice and steady. Then I try to re-reach my chin out, trying to get my neck as long as possible.
And dragging it in.
Dragging it in.
Nice.
And you do the exact same thing from your back.
Yep, you could do the exact same thing, switching over to that supine position, strengthening from that other direction. Now the opposite of those first movements and kind of exploring tension, now going from this supine setup, we get to allow gravity to take our head back to feel that stretch even further. So as we're watching DJ do this, he's getting very long with this tissue. When's the last time you've lengthened your tissue or looked up like that? Unless you're in a big city or visiting somewhere or looking at some airplanes in the sky, you're probably not looking up and reaching and lengthening that tissue. So we're so used to being closed and short. So this is a good way to kind of let the body weight or the the head weight of our head, kind of reach back, lengthen that tissue, and then from there start that contraction, walking it up, bringing the chin, tucking that chin in. The converse of that prone setup, here just using the weight of our head to load that tissue.
Keeping the tongue in the roof of your mouth is so critical in this. If you don't, you'll overstrain your neck. Not a lot of people have been in this position like you were just talking about, so a lot of them, they're almost thinking like an ab crunch, like I'm just gonna start rocking this thing. It's not Mike Tyson from the 80s, dude. That dude has been training for so long, nothing but neck. Like most people are not like that. So give this thing some time, really focus on the stretch, focus on the control, keep the tongue in the roof of your mouth. Smarter, not harder. You don't need to make this thing any harder than it needs to be. And this is something you can do every single day, man. Like you're self-checking, especially the dudes, first responders, law enforcement, military, anybody who wears heavy shit on your head all day long. This is such a game changer, man. I know you guys get in that broken posture. I do it too all the time, and we just end up avoiding it. There's no need to avoid it, man. This thing will take you 5 minutes. It's no different than hip mobility. You can throw this in every workout, every break, every rest period. Dude, throw in 3 sets of 5, 3 sets of 10. Just motion slotion, man. But this stuff is a game changer for anybody with neck issues. But remember, tongue in the roof of the mouth is key.
This was part 2 of that neck mobility series. That first one really going over the nuance and importance of why we do it. And then here's some practical application of tools that you can use to restore range of motion, some drills that we do on the spot every day to address issues, to find them, to be proactive, and as well as to have some strength tips for building strength and resiliency around that area.